The Ninth Assembly will be inaugurated on Tuesday, June 11th. And on that day, leaders of the two chambers, Senate and the House of Representatives, will be elected by the members of those two chambers. To say that the race for the leadership of the Ninth Assembly has begun is indeed an understatement. Effectively, the race is in an advanced stage, and I'm sure you've been following all the things that have been going on. I won't say intrigues, but all the things that have been going on regarding the leadership of the House. But we're going to dissect this morning, and we're going to do that with the help of the DG of Nigeria First, Ezekiel Nya-Etok.
Thanks
Good
for
morning.
having me.
As well as a political scientist, Mr. Kayode Isuola. Good morning.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us this morning.
Viewers.
Yes, let me begin with you, sir.
Yes,
Social governance. I wonder what that is all about, but that is for another day.
Okay.
Let's talk about the National Assembly now. I'm sure you are a political animal because you actually contested.
They say we all are.
Well, that's what they say. But some of us contest and others don't. And you actually contested. So I'm sure you have been following this particular matter
With keen interest.
With keen interest. So what are your thoughts about where we are at right now? Bajabia Mila,
Yes.
you know, being at the... Oh, yes, he has some... Anyway.
They say. It actually makes me really sad that the narrative is not about governance, but about politics. And you must understand the essence of everything. The difference between a political or a democratic dispensation and any other dispensation is the introduction of the third arm of government, which is the the legislature. There must be a reason for the creation of the legislature. And where the emphasis is so much on working arrangement, relationship with the executive, then one wonders, why then do we need to have a legislature? It's a very important question we must answer. Because, we want somebody that can work with the president, we want somebody that is endorsed by the president, we want somebody, and the emphasis is so much on the president. We ask ourselves, why do we have the legislature that has an oversight function as one of the three core functions? I thought we'll be laying more emphasis on the essence of that setup. A man who understands the three key responsibilities of the legislature. You talk of representation, you talk of lawmaking, you talk of oversight. And you see, from representation and oversight, you are able to get into lawmaking. Do they really understand the dynamics? So each time I hear people analyze the different possibilities on the table, all I hear is we want somebody that can work well with the executive, we want somebody that is from the party. I hear so much of party, so much of working well the executive, and I ask myself, where is the place of competence, capability, and fit for purpose? It's within these narratives that I feel that we are not attacking it the way. I want to hear that this man understands these dynamics and has the best capacity and capability to deliver.
Ezekiel, when they talk about one who can work well with the president, maybe, could well be that the thought is they want somebody who will work well, not like somebody who will endorse everything, but somebody who, at one time we had this quarrel, in quotes, between the National Assembly and the president, and things didn't seem to be moving well. So maybe they meant somebody who will have such a rapport that things will not be delayed, so that things will move smoothly.
It's
maybe.
With all due respect, it's very silly thinking and misunderstanding of what this is all about. There are processes in legislation.
Okay, can you just hold your thoughts? We need to go on a quick break. When we'll come
back. Is that
back.
because I say it's silly?
No, it's because it's time to go on a quick break. We'll be back shortly. Please don't go away.
Senate President Bukola Saraki arrives for the last plenary of the 8th Senate. The Senate is holding its valedictory session as the 8th Assembly wraps up.
Scrutiny is very important.
One after the other, senators speak about the past 4 years as federal lawmakers.
This Senate, therefore, today is a united Senate, and all of us are of like minds.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I bow today as first female minority leader in the annals of history of the legislature.
We started together. We were doing fine. We had issues. We had misunderstanding. But I believe that that is part of the learning process.
We have learned some lessons, and I hope that those lessons will move democracy forward.
The 8th Senate will be remembered for quite a number of reasons, one of which is the invasion of its chambers by thugs in April 2018.
That fateful day, when this particular Senate was invaded by hoodlums who came and took our mess, the ordinary staff of this assembly fought back. The clerks, the sergeant-at-arms, the messengers.
To wrap up the session, the Senate President speaks of some of the achievements of the Senate beyond passing the highest number of bills.
We define ourselves by the belief that we fought for democracy, held government to account, and made personal sacrifices. For some of us, sacrifices are still being made, owing to the fallouts of some of the decisions taken.
He has a word for the 9th Senate and receives the applause of the senators.
Let me appeal to those of you who are coming back. The support that you gave me, please give it to the next Senate President, because whoever the next Senate President is, he's one of us. He's part of us. And it is in the interest of the institution that this institution stays strong. It is when our institution is strong that democracy is strong. I thank you all. Thank you, my colleagues. God bless you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Then he adjourns the Senate.
The Senate of the 8th Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria hereby stand adjourned, Senate.
The tenure of the 8th Senate has officially ended. In a few days, the 9th Senate will be inaugurated, and all eyes will be on them to see whether or not they learned anything from the 8th Senate, and whether they are prepared to build on some of the successes of the 8th Senate and to exert their authority as the Parliament of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And I'll hand you over to my colleague Larry Lasisi in the House of Representatives.
Thank you, Terry. In the House of Representatives, it was a proper event indeed. Dignitaries were invited, former speakers, former principal officers, former clerks of the House of Representatives were all invited.
Former lawmakers who are now governors also graced the event. The mood is reflective and full of thanksgiving. It is a time for speeches from the lawmakers.
This place brings out the best in us, and it also has the capacity to bring out the worst in us. It is also a place for learning, Mr. Speaker.
There is need for the executive to have respect for the rule of law, to also ensure that the three arms of government keep to their limit, and there is respect whereby we can at least forge ahead.
And from former presiding officers.
It's about goodwill. It's about wishing all of us well. It's about urging all of us to sustain the image, the unity, the togetherness of this House.
Welcome back. We're still talking about the leadership of the National Assembly. Architect Took, you said something earlier. I just need to round up on what you said.
Well, basically, we must come as a country to understand the difference between politics and governance. In governance, three arms of government are set up to play very, very, very complementary roles. So you need a man who understands that this is the role I'm to play to supervise you. I'm not to be your friend. I'm not to be your enemy. I'm just to work with you. If not so, very soon we'll have to have a chief justice or a chief judge that is amenable to the presidency. Do you understand? Democracy is not about presidency. It's about three independent arms of government that should be mature enough to know that they interrelate for the good working, and not that one must be the one that Mr. President who sits on top is able to work with. We must have a president who knows that there must be opposition and that he must be wise enough to be able to network and talk about passing laws. You have a liaison person. Before the law gets to first reading, second reading, goes to public hearing and all those things, your person must be in tune with what is going on and interact so that at the end of the day, when a bill is finally passed, there is a component. I was a consultant on the social housing bill. And I know that by the time we got to the end with your governor, Professor Ayade, we realized that the presidency had issues with funding, and we tried to tinker around with it. We were working with the presidency, we were working together, the executive and the legislature, they were working together. So when that point came, when we couldn't give a reasonable funding structure, they had to step down the bill because there was a good working arrangement.
Okay, Mr. Swallow, he says we need someone who understands what the role is. My role is that of the legislature. I make the laws. I also carry on oversight, represent the people, and all of that. Is it about a person or a people? Because there are quite a number of them there. Do the people there, you think they understand this side of what their roles are and how to go about them? Before we even begin to say from amongst them, we'll pick one that will lead the pack.
Well, every reasonable Nigerian citizen who has been observing what has been going on in this country since 1999 till date will conclude expressly that those who you have in the National Assembly do not really understand the purpose of being there. You don't need the wisdom of Solomon
20 years
to
on.
draw that conclusion. I am not saying they are not people of quality. I mean, you have PhDs among them, you have highly experienced individuals, highly intelligent people among them. But being people of quality is different from being people who understand the reason data for being where they are. So, to answer your question,
just a quick question.
Okay.
Understanding and actual doing, are they the same thing?
Well, they may not be the same thing, but you must understand what you need to do before you are able to do it. I mean, you identify the problem before you know how to solve it. So my thinking is that majority of them do not understand why they are there, and therefore they find it almost impossible to do what they are supposed to do. My brother, if you understand that your business in the National Assembly is to make law for the people, is to have oversight function over the executive, the question you ask yourself is, when you took that decision at the center of your sitting room that you will become a legislator, come 2020, come 2019, come wherever, what was the powering force in you? What was the driving force? Did you take that decision because you really have a clue of the laws you want to project, or because you feel you need to better your financial position? These are fundamental issues that Nigerians don't discuss.
The answer is B.
The answer is B? Obviously. I don't want to be. Okay. Until we resolve these questions, we merely will be perambulating. Because at the mind of the person who is sitting on a particular committee at one point or the other, the thinking is, what is in there for me? Not what is in there for this country. How do you run a democracy and you want to make progress in that direction?
All right. We've just been joined by Mr. Biodun Showme, a social commentator. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Showme.
It's my pleasure. Good morning.
Your two friends have talked about what is and what ought to be, the need for an understanding of purpose. Eto mentioned three things: competence, capacity, and then fit for purpose. He talks about understanding and actually doing what you're there to do. All of this is tied to who should be the leader of the park. Now, we're not calling any names, we're talking about the qualities that should be. How, at the end of the day, can that 9th assembly, because the 8th assembly is rounded off, and one of the things they said was they passed more bills than any other assembly given to them. How many of them were assented to is a different ballgame altogether. But they passed more bills than any other.
They say about 74 were assented to?
Out
of 300 and something?
So what should we be looking to? The question of zoning now comes into play here. They've zoned the Senate President to the north, the Speaker of the House of Representatives to the south. Should these things be the things that we're looking at, outside of competence, capacity, and fit for purpose?
Well, unfortunately, the system in Nigeria defaulted to create the situation we find ourselves in. When you go and look at the internal democracy within the political parties, the emergence of parliamentarians, or if you want to call it, National Assembly members, because there's a huge difference between a legislature and parliament. When you look at that, you will know that the system is defaulted by virtue of party ownership, to ensure that godfathers are the only one fielding the candidates of their choice. How truly are people emerging from political parties' primaries representatives of the people? That is a major issue, because the moment you do not have the electorate, really having a major say in who becomes the candidate, then you have defaulted the system, to create the kind of National Assembly which we've been having. Let me give you a very good example. When you look at the whole discourse, around leadership of the National Assembly, it all centers on using the positions, to ensure that people are lobbied, to elect the kind of leadership which they want. Invariably, what that means is it's a form of corruption within itself. What that means is basically people are being given offices which they are not fit for, or which they don't have the capacity for, or the competencies for. So, and this is really very troubling. When you look at another angle to it again, the role of the people themselves, to what extent are the people, insisting on choosing their political leadership? You talk about party membership. How many members of political parties are actually paying dues in a way that they can have a say in who decides what? But our people are not doing that. And the moment you face that situation, those who are funding the political parties will insist on having their own candidates.
So you think that gives room to the party leaders to determine or to sort of insist on certain people?
Whoever pays the piper dictates the tune. Of course. That is the truth of the matter.
But then those who are in the National Assembly or who won the elections will tell you that they bought their nomination forms. They ought to be able to decide for themselves who should be. And then does that mean we now rest the Constitution because someone pays the piper and needs to determine the tune?
No, it shouldn't be like that. But the system has been defaulted to operate like that. Look at the case of the last National Assembly. They've passed so many bills than any other National Assembly, in the past. But how many were assented to 74? And then you ask yourself, what stops the National Assembly from overriding, using its veto power, over it? They just could not do it, because there are always either EFCC trailing one or the other, because they themselves on their home part are not clean.
But what about issues of errors in the writings of those bills?
There are, obviously, that also calls into question, the competency of the heads. Go to National Assembly. Most of them are being paid, all of them are being paid for legislative aids. But do they really employ lawyers to look at those drafts? They only employ political cronies around them.
Even amongst the members, many of them are lawyers.
Absolutely. But they are not there to practice law. They are always focused on...
They can contribute when these things are being put together.
That is correct, but that is not the way National Assembly works. You know, they have a committee, they will set up a committee, you know, to look at the bills and all that. But in many cases, how many of those committee members, you know, are actually present when those bills were being scrutinized by the committee? One. Number two, how many days do we have the National Assembly operating in a week? 3 days in a week. So quite often, they don't get enough time to scrutinize those bills. What they do is, under pressure, they will just send the bill to be passed. I remember the last case we've had, I think in 2015, they did pass over 60 bills in a day, you know, towards the end of that regime. So these are part of the lapses.
And the same thing happened.
The same thing happened, you know, with the last legislature too. You know, and when you continue to behave like that, you can't keep doing something the same way and expect to get a different result. And it tells a lot about the competency of people there, whether they are fit for purpose, you know. The National Assembly is all about lawmaking, you know, that's the legislative functions, representation, you know, and the oversight functions. Oversight functions only happen in National Assembly when many of them think, you know, they have something to hold on to, because at the end of the day, they get settled. And you only have representation. Their own understanding of representation is when they arrogate to themselves the functions of the executive in terms of constituency projects. That is their own understanding of it. The only one I think they have a better understanding of, not a better understanding of, is the legislative functions. Even then, that is also found wanting in terms of defective bills being passed.
Ultimately, sorry, you know, what is powering the mind of those who are there?
Yeah.
If you are powered by the right purpose, you will know what to do when you get there. You will know when you need to employ a lawyer, when you need to employ a writer to put all the documents and make sure they flow towards they want to flow. But instead of doing that, I am told, I've never been there, that what they run around for is the inclusion in the strategic and powerful committee. Powerful in the sense that the committee is the clown that will give you the best of the lajis in your pocket. Look, until we visit
committees,
until we visit the reason people go into politics in Nigeria, our discussion about National Assembly will not be different from what exists at the level of governors in state, local government, the presidency. They will never do the right thing.
For as long as those positions are as lucrative as they are, people will only have one reason for going there.
I mean, constituency project.
Spending as much money as we hear they spend to get into those positions.
Constituency project, I mean, for instance, all over the world, in the United States, people have constituency project. But what an American senator does is not to collect money into his personal account and execute it himself. You lobby the executive to get constituency projects done in your area. The executive is still going to do it. But all you want to do is have this reputation that it is during my own time that this project came in here, and I've been able to, you know, provide jobs for a lot of people. But here, when people are talking about constituency project, they are talking about millions in their account, so that when they get there, they now begin to throw money and dance for girlfriends and all this.
These things, yes, please.
Okay, I was going to say the fact that the APC right now we can call the party,
ruling party.
The ruling party has endorsed several people for Senate and for speakership. What would you be looking to see? Now, I'm thinking we should move away from, what is now? What should we be looking to see in this 9th Assembly?
Number one, we should understand that the Senate President is a potential President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria by law.
Yes, true. That's correct.
We should understand that. And we should understand what the quality of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria should be. As at today, after 20 years and so many presidents, OBJ, my brother Jonathan, before we had late Yaradua, to the current president, none. The National Assemblies, we are on the 9th, none has understood that we must have a national vision. What's so difficult about giving us a national vision? We don't have a national vision as a country. We don't. Number two, we have certain issues that have been disturbing us, recurrent decimals. One of them is insecurity. What's so difficult for us to sit down and understand how issues are addressed? What are the causes of insecurity? All we think is contract, project. Let's buy this and quit the army. That is not where insecurity comes from. I'll give you two examples. Number one, the Southeast. How many of us realize that every family in the Southeast has a wound that they are nursing? What is so difficult in the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria standing up to say, look for what happened in Biafra. My people are living with hurt. I'm sorry about what happened. We can't undo, but we can forgive and move on. And possibly putting up a memorial to honor all the dead during that war and say, gentlemen, let's move on. You go to Boko Haram. Do you know that each of these people you kill, they are my brother who had no work to do? And then somebody from Boko Haram came and told him, come and get some work and let me pay you. He's not entering because he believes in the ideology of Boko Haram. He's getting involved because he needs a means of livelihood. You catch him, you kill him. He's my brother. I'm living with that hurt. So as we are killing Boko Haram people, we're asking ourselves, have we addressed the fundamental problem? The young people in the north, what future do they have? What have we been able to go and give them? You give me $1 billion, I will not buy arms. I will go into massive empowerment and recruitment of the young people. If you want to put out light, it's simple. Take off the oxygen. Boko Haram has oxygen of knowing that these people are poor, these people are looking for means of livelihood, and they are supplying, and the people are responding, and you want to stop it, and you stop it by killing. Each person you kill, you call him Boko Haram. I call him my brother, I call him my uncle, I call him my husband, I call him my relation, I call him my friend. What I've just said, please tell me what is so technical about it. And I want you to tell me which president has sat up to address the issues of insecurity from what we call first principles. Who has done that? So coming into National Assembly, I'm looking for a man who understands government and governance and the essence of government. It's clearly enunciated in Chapter 2, Section 14, subsection 2b, that the welfare and security of the people shall be the primary purpose of government. The last set of laws that we've done, which are those laws that address rural areas?
I'll take it up with Ms. Shomi. So that statement by Festus Akimboewa talking about the last assembly wasn't really too interested in scrutinizing policies and expenditure of the executive. They're more interested in enriching themselves. And the 9th Assembly has to be different. Do you think that will work with the way things are going in the search of leadership?
With the way things are going, I'm a bit less optimistic. Obviously, we need to do things differently from the way we've been doing them. But are the new members of the National Assembly well positioned to do that? That I'm not too sure, because of the way, again, they emerge. You know, we've monetized the whole system, right from registration of political parties, up to selection of candidates, to the extent that people have to look for millions, in order to win, to buy the nomination forms, and forget about the corruption of the process of selection and the role of godfathers in it. Therefore, they are there to serve certain interest, but not really to represent the interest of the Nigerian people. We keep saying they are representatives. How truly are they our representatives? For instance, let me give you one major thing that we need to do, which the next National Assembly needs to look into. The issue is, nobody is talking about eliminating poverty. Reduce poverty. If you reduce poverty, you would have solved a substantial part of the problem, leading to crimes in the country.
State policy.
And nobody is doing anything about that. The last National Assembly saw how, this is not a criticism of the Buhari's administration, that how the trader money, $320-something million was employed. We could have used that in a better way, to create jobs, to tackle poverty. The chapter 2 of the Nigerian Constitution referred to by my colleague, that the purpose of government is about the welfare of the people. Okay, now the problem is this: that has not been made effective, in the sense that you cannot enforce it in law. And because you cannot enforce it in law, what it means is, it's just there, simply. But the last National Assembly could have done, better by making it to be justiciable. So one is expecting the next National Assembly to make that chapter 2 of the Nigerian Constitution, justiciable. The moment they do that, you will begin to see state governments and federal government looking at the causes of poverty, because they will have to pay welfare benefits if they failed to do that.
Okay, what's the next assembly be doing?
I align with him principally. What they should be doing is look at what will make us have a country where every citizen will cease to be member of the public, because that's what we are now. We need to become citizens. And for us to do that, he talked about reducing corruption, right? I mean, poverty. I put it differently. I said we should have equitable reward system in Nigeria. Yeah. For me, poverty is caused by very criminally skewed reward system that you have in this country today. We keep talking, we're saying the same thing, but I'm looking at it in another angle, maybe as a base to top matter. How much does a senator earn? How much does the governor earn? How much does the president himself earn? And all these people, if they want change, they need to skew it in such a way that it doesn't have to be equal, but it has to be equitable, so that it will make sense. Once we have equitable reward system, we will have been able to solve a lot of problems, part of which is criminality, insecurity, and then our biggest problem, election rigging, election manipulation. If I have a reward from my profession, from my career, that can give me a true life, I tell you to go to hell and burn to ashes when you call me to vote the way I don't want to vote. So we solve problems by going to the road. But if you think these people will do anything,
one sentence.
Last word, we are done already?
Let me communicate what I was asked to do. The government of Akwa Ibom State is offering the two of you a free ticket for a weekend in Akwa Ibom on Ibom Air. That's from the government of Akwa Ibom. Oh yeah, it's flying. I came by it yesterday.
Your last word on the matter.
Okay, I see. I thought about social governance.
Okay. 2 words that tell a whole story. Ezekiel Nia Etiok, Director General, Nigeria First, and we also have Mr. Biodun Showumi, a social commentator, and Mr. Kayode Isuola, political scientist. Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much.